Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I am so excited and a little bit nervous about coming on live today. And the reason for that is I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable with you today. So, many of you know that I am a huge subscriber to intuitive eating. It is something I came to after a history of disordered eating. But for health purposes, I am about to go on a pretty restricted diet called the FODMAPs diet. And the question might be, why? Why would you go on a diet when you don't go on diets ever? And all you talk about is intuitive eating. It is for health purposes. So for those of you who don't know, in my mid-20s, I was diagnosed with IBS. I went for all the tests. I went to the doctors. I saw some specialists. That is what was decided that I had. So before I go any further into this, I am going to mention that the content that is being discussed today is for informational and educational purposes only and is not meant to be a diagnosis or a substitute for the information provided to you by your healthcare provider. Now, I want to say this because I am talking about a lot of medical stuff today. I am not telling you to go out there and diagnose yourself with IBS just because you have some stomach aches. My experience was, if you've seen the Alien movie, you know, the xenomorph, the like chest bursters, it felt like that was happening to my stomach almost on a daily basis. So that's what ended up taking me to the doctor. I couldn't figure out what it was being caused by. To this day, I don't even really know what my triggers are. So before this, I had a history of disordered eating and body dysmorphia. So I would look in the mirror and see a reflection looking back at me that was not what the rest of the world was seeing. I've had this on both ends of the spectrum, both when I was really tiny and still looking at a larger person, and even again now when I see a picture of myself, oh, that's what I look like, from the opposite end, because I'm not what I was a handful of years ago. I am now postpartum, 2 babes, pretty close together, and things do not look the same as they used to. And I'm fine with that. I'm just putting it out there. So because of my history with dieting, restrictive eating, and body dysmorphia, I have been super nervous about embarking on this FODMAPs diet, which was recommended to me by a doctor. And the reason I'm nervous about it is, as I mentioned, it's pretty restrictive, and I am worried that it is going to re-trigger some of the disordered eating habits that were existing in me prior to me kind of turning things around. Will I ever be fully cured from disordered eating? I'm not so sure. But I am afraid to kind of put myself in this position where there are restrictions involved, because what if it makes me think things that, things come up, things from the past, etc. So that's where I'm coming from. In terms of my history with IBS, as I mentioned, I got diagnosed when I was in my early 20s. Throughout my pregnancy, so I was pregnant or nursing for about 4.5 years total. I had 2 babies in that time and 2 miscarriages during that time, and the pregnancies that resulted in births ended up being pretty much at the tail end of my recovery period in terms of the miscarriages. So during this 4.5 years, I actually had 0 IBS attacks. 0, none, nothing. Now, I was warned by a family member who has Crohn's disease that when it comes to intestinal stuff, at least with Crohn's, during pregnancy you get no symptoms, but when the symptoms come back, they are tenfold, which is pretty much where I am right here, right now, in this moment. 1 year postpartum, almost to the day, I had a terrible attack that lasted about 4 days, which was very strange considering a lot of my attacks would happen in the evenings and they would kind of be dispersed here and there. As I said, they were probably triggered by a combination of various foods, but I don't really know. I didn't get too deep into it because I thought, hey, I'm living the high life. I'm not having any symptoms. We are good to go. Then flash forward to, I had already heard about the FODMAPs diet from my previous doctor's appointment that I went to. But flash forward to last Friday night, I had another attack. I couldn't get out of bed. I could not get out of bed. And my husband, bless him, told me that, you know what, you got to do something about this. So I started re-investigating this whole FODMAPs thing. So I did some research on the internet, but I'm a book girl. I'm a turn the pages, highlight kind of girl. So I went on Amazon and I bought a book. So I scrutinized for about a day over which book I'm going to buy, and I settled on one that had some recipes and things like that. So that is the direction I went to. At the same time as I'm doing this, which again was, oh, there we go, sorry. Just a little pause there. So while I'm doing this, I am going to doctor's visits. I'm getting more tests done to rule out things like Crohn's disease, a gluten allergy, which isn't very possible because I haven't had it before. But on the flip side, I've never actually been tested for it before, so who knows, as well as other types of ailments to make sure that we are on the right track. So again, the doctor recommended the FODMAPs diet. I'm not saying you should run out, get a book, and start doing this, especially if you're thinking of doing it for the purpose of losing weight. So I got a book, and I'm really glad I did. As soon as it arrived, I cracked it open, I started reading, and realized that the information I was getting from the internet was saying that I should be consuming low FODMAPs foods only, indefinitely, at least the websites that I landed on. What I learned from the book is that the recommended way to do it is to go on an elimination period where you only consume low-fat FODMAPs foods, because most foods have some sort of FODMAPs in them, and then start to challenge your body with the various types of FODMAPs to then figure out which ones are your specific triggers and whether it's a sensitivity or a restriction. So you start introducing them slowly over 3 days, seeing how you do by day 3. Of course, if you have an attack sooner, you don't keep going. You go back to low FODMAPs for a few days, and then you try your next trigger. So what the heck are FODMAPs? I had no freaking clue either. I don't even know if I know how to pronounce them properly, but I'm going to take one for the team here. So the F is for fermentable, pretty easy food. It doesn't mean you cannot consume fermented foods. These are the foods that create gas within the body when broken down by the gut microbes. So very different than, like, I don't know, sauerkraut is the first thing that pops into my head. This is where things get hard. The O is for oligosaccharides. Make comments all you want. Water-soluble fibers, disaccharides, which is lactose, monosaccharides, which is fructose. The A in FODMAPs is for the word and. I think I got that one down. And polyols, which are sugar alcohols. So each of these things are said to have adverse effects within the body when consumed by people who have gut issues, such as myself. So eliminating the high versions of these and then starting to reintroduce them slowly. So that's where I am today. So I haven't started it yet. I will be embarking on it shortly. Again, I'm a little nervous. I'm kind of avoiding starting it because I am nervous about the effects that this will have. So, flash forward to today. Usually when I post or I go live, I have found myself on the other end of an issue and had success with it. I put myself through my own classes, through my own programs before I present them to anyone, to make sure I know what the results will be, and even the information that I am learning. So back when I was learning about pelvic health, I didn't talk about it until I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on it, until I saw the results in my own body myself and I wasn't peeing my pants anymore. But today I don't have the answer. I came on here today with the purpose of being really vulnerable with you and just sharing what I am going through. And I have no answers right now. I don't. What I do know is that I got some amazing advice on the weekend when I expressed concern about it. And that is that, again, I am going on this diet to create a better quality of life for myself. It isn't for the purpose of losing weight. It isn't for the purpose of fitting into a certain ideal. It is for a better quality of life myself. I have 2 small kids. I cannot be sitting around in bed when they're awake and expecting them to just take care of themselves. It's not realistic. So at this point in time, I am approaching this whole experience from a place of loving my body rather than hating it. I am approaching this, again, from a place of loving my body as opposed to hating it. And for all I know, maybe that's all it's going to take. I don't know. I don't have the answers. But I'm not going to know until I'm on the other side of it, which will be 12 to 16 weeks from the day I decide to start. So we'll see how it goes. I plan on keeping you posted, whether it's good news, bad news. It is said to help out The book says 75%, the internet says 85% of people who have IBS. So keeping my fingers crossed that at the end of this, it's just going to be all good. It's got a very intuitive approach to it, finding out what works in your body, what doesn't. If things don't feel good after you consume them, having that knowledge and then making a decision whether you're going to consume that food or not may be all it takes. On the flip side, if you know you can't tolerate the food, allergy or even Crohn's disease, there's certain things that you cannot eat, then don't go and eat those things. But again, I can see this going into an intuitive approach. It's just, in the meantime, until I get to the other side, it is going to be pretty restrictive, which kind of goes against everything I've been talking about. So that's all I've got today. Thank you so much for all of you who tuned in live. I was really feeling nervous again, so I was just trying to get this out. So thanks to Trish, Brad, Carmen, Balanced Breath Yoga Studio, and Jesse for all joining in today. That's all I can see on my end. If you were here live or watching the replay, throw me an emoji. Let me know that you're here. Hey, Trish, it's you that's still on. I can see there was one person. So aside from that, again, thank you so much for joining me today. And if there's anything that I can help you out with, please let me know. Aside from that, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And I've got some class openings tonight. So if you're interested, head on over to the website and check those out. Otherwise, I'll see you, I'm sure, very, very soon. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.